War, the catalyst of destruction, and all that is vile and base. Within its very meaning and every adjacent pragmatic meaning it holds, it can represent nothing else but death and the abhorrent construction of devices that do its bidding. War, then, inspires creation, and this creation may be separated from the creation of destruction just mentioned. Seen not only within the rebuilding of communities and places ravaged by it, but even further, its imprint upon the human psyche urges itself upon the endurer of its horrors to express their feelings and sufferings creatively. Today, The Art of War, not the book, but the product of human creation itself, shall be looked into. When faced with something unspeakable and unbearable, at times it only follows that words are unable to express the feelings that boil within someone. This is where art comes into play, to relieve the bearer of their pain, or at the very least to help them warn others of the pains they now suffer from an event so inconceivably out of their control. Chapter 1. The Depictions. The easiest way to put across a message through art is to ignore any abstraction, any creative influence that might alter or stir the original image, and depict, as it were, the disgust of the event's witness. Realist military art like this usually appear, of course, before the 19th century, right on the verge, time-wise, that is, of being pushed over into the abstract depictions that will be talked about shortly. And these, of course, not only just start prior to the 19th century, but can be traced back all the way to the Sumerians. A great example is the Stele of the Vultures, which depicts a very, very early siege on a city done by the Sumerians, and of course then depicted in a carving out of this clay. Let's start a little closer to us with examples of the Napoleonic Wars and other wars at that time, where no liberties were taken in depicting anything but the actual sense of war as it was. The defense of Hougomont at Waterloo. Let us start by looking at the year 1815, with a realist painting by the artist Denis Dighton, able to make it to the site only 15 days after the battle. The realism of this painting is compounded through immediate sketches of the area while there was still that immediate destruction, and interviews with the surrounding soldiers right after the battle. For 9 long hours, a fight between the British Coldstream Guards against Napoleon's troops took place. The struggle of this battle can be seen in each and every face of the soldiers painted, whether stabbed, shooting, grappling at each other, or dead. The pure intensity of this battle can be felt. The cluttered masses on both the left, right, and within the midground create a sense of paranoia, an intense feeling of action and clutteredness. A look into what would have been one of the last battles for those French troops, a desperate, inhumane last attempt to prevail, and the force of the Coldstream Guards' will, the will and the knowledge that here and now the greatest general of all time can be stopped. All of these factors add to one of the most impactful pieces of military art, in my opinion. The road from Arras to Bapaume, 1917. Before I say anything about this painting, just look at it. Feel the emptiness, the misery, the loneliness it forms. Feel the fact that even though the vehicles and the troops are going both ways, It seems as if they are all departing away from you. Feel the reality of the event at stake. A painting far less dense than the previous, and yet it creates an even more horrifying image of war. Painted by C.R.W. Nevinson, this painting marked a new era for him as a British painter who was previously an Italian futurist, a style of bright colors and harsh, large shapes. It is clear with this single painting alone the nerve-altering impact that war had on his mind and art. It is empty and yet endless. These two contradicting forms in tandem with the gray color palette used to force the dread of the Western Front onto the viewer. Not much else really needs to be said about this painting as mentioned. It is gloomy, and it paints the lonely, isolating reality of a much more modern war than the Napoleonic events. Of course, realism, as we can even see with this example, can only hold its grip for as long as war is humane, and that never lasts long. A view, an image, a memory, all as quickly as formed fall into the power of distortion and become a vile, base version of their original formation, all through the scarring power of war on the mind. Yet, under the suppressive boot of war, a flower blooms. The Elephant Celebes. Painted post-World War I by the German artist Max Ernst, we are immediately drawn to the large elephant-esque form in the center. A creature of the natural world, now composed of machinery and tubes. A distortion of the creature of the world as we know it. The direct reference, according to Ernst, are widespread. From corn bins of West Africa to adult-themed German poetry. However, what appeals to me is a direct quote from the artist himself that gives insight into such a painting. He says that he died in 1914 and was only resurrected again once 1918 had come to pass. The impact of the war, then, cannot be undermined whatsoever on the paintings that Ernst created. The widespread machines of death and factories of weapons of war feel as if they do embody a massive metal giant. A further distortion of nature appears in the half-human figure in the bottom right, urging on the great mechanical metallic creature. Yet they are headless, not thinking, not understanding nor seeing the consequences that such a beast may bear onto all that it touches. The rest of the landscape is barren, calling us back once more to our previous painting, a land of empty nothingness. Only the falsified creations of man and the mountains are left to stand. And babies. Created by the trio of Fraser Daughtry, John Hendricks, and Irving Pedlin as a protest after the My Lai massacre of 1968 during the Vietnam War. I am not going to analyze this piece like I did the others. I feel the presence of it is enough. There were also endless other pieces of art that I could have chosen for this final piece. There are countless paintings from other surrealism-based artists, examples of the effect of war and what it can do to the minds of those who suffer from it. However, there is a line that once crossed passes past surrealism and returns us back to reality. A reality so sobering that most people will attempt to never think of such actions. And then and only then must we return to realism. In this case, a graphic realism, in both senses. a modern mix of typology and photography, both things not as easily producible for all the previous wars spoken on. But in Vietnam, these technologies were real and present, and war could come home. From realism to surrealism and back again. If the deaths of war were not enough for one to understand its consequences, these art pieces, looks into the minds and realities of those who had to directly suffer through such events, should fully bring these consequences to light. War is not human. War distorts the humanity we have. It takes away the views we were given and shapes them into horrors. But these shapings of the world reproduced into art help us heed warning. One of the greatest things a teacher told or taught me is that history doesn't repeat, but it sure does rhyme. And to have the ability to not only understand the events of the past that took place, but to have the fortune of seeing through the eyes of those who were there is an impossibly important gift that we were given. Learn from the past, so you will never have to experience your present warped as so many others have. Thank you all very much for watching this video. This is quite a somber, different take than my normal art fashion-related videos. Yet, I am interested in all aspects of art, and I would love to continue to expand what I am able to make here. I feel that the niche of art that I'm in, even the art of the modern years in general, is very distorting in its own right, and it doesn't allow you to see the world as it actually is anymore, including consumerism. It distorts. It takes away understandings of the consequences of the real world. And I feel it's ever important to take steps back at points and understand, once again, the somber realities of the world we live in. Learn from the events that take place around us. Learn from the events that have happened and shape a better reality. Not one that's distorted, but one that is created in our own ideas. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and as always, have an amazing day.